In this video, I will explain how data entry for Approach IS2 can be performed in REDCap. If you wish to know more about survey distribution or how you can receive access to the project in REDCap, take a look at the other videos that we have made about these topics. Click on Approach IS2 English to access the project. You might see one of the other Approach IS2 projects here depending on the language in which you will collect data or send out the surveys. All projects have this general layout. On the left is a menu and on the right is a workspace. The project title appears at the top. The area used for data entry is the menu's data collection section. The record status dashboard displays the records that have already been created. Here you can see that data entry in Leuven has started. The green buttons display completed records. Each record corresponds to a different participant in the study. The dashboard page is used to open existing records by clicking the record ID numbers or colored buttons. As you can see, buttons are arranged in columns corresponding to the project's data collection instruments. The first instrument shown here is the email address of the patient. This should be used when you want to distribute online surveys. Another video explains how to do this in more detail. The second instrument shown here is the survey with a set of questionnaires for part 1 of the study. This is the survey that can be sent out to patients through email. The survey is available for your patients if you have indicated to be willing to send out surveys during the registration procedure or if you have communicated this through email to the coordinating center. The third instrument is the data entry form, also with a set of questionnaires for part 1 of the study. When a patient completed the set of questionnaires on paper, these data can be entered in this form. Therefore, no patient should have both instrument 2 and 3 completed, as the same variables are collected here, but the 2 instruments were set up due to different data collection methods. The fourth instrument is the data entry form for part 2 of the study. As this form should be completed by the research assistant, this form is not available as a survey for patients. Patients that do not participate in part 2 of the study, or simply centers that only participate in part 1 of the study, may leave this form blank. The fifth instrument is the medical data collection form, which is again a data entry form and not a survey. This form should be completed in close collaboration with your cardiologist. On the OSF folder, you can find the standard operating procedures with more information about the medical variables. The remaining instruments are piggyback studies, the studies that use Approach IS2 as a vehicle, but in which participation is not mandatory. As you can see, there is always a data entry form and a survey for patients available for these piggyback studies. If you have indicated during the registration procedure that you are willing to send out the surveys by email and you participate in one or more piggyback studies, the patient will automatically be asked to complete these additional questions of the piggyback studies after completing the general set of questionnaires. You can use the data entry form if you participate in one of the piggyback studies and your patients have completed the questionnaires on paper. In conclusion, all participants of Approach IS2 should have at least 2 forms completed, being the medical data collection form, which is a data entry form, and the set of questionnaires for part 1, either the survey or the data entry form. In this tab, you can also indicate which dashboard should be displayed. For example, you can select a dashboard that only displays data entry instruments. This can make it easier to keep an overview. On the Add Edit Records page, you can open an existing record by selecting it from the list, or you can type a keyword or phrase and open a record by selecting from the matches. This page is the only page where you can add a new record. To begin data entry, click any colored button. Notice that they are gray by default, indicating that no data has yet been saved. If you click on one of the instruments, the form will open and data entry can start. We've used several different instrument types such as note boxes, single choice questions and multiple choice questions. Most are pretty self-explanatory. You can use tabs to move to the next fields. The green highlight indicates where the cursor is. As I enter data, I will get more validation reminders if I enter something in the wrong format or outside of the expected range. Notice that whenever there is a range validation, it is possible to save values outside the expected minimum and maximum, but the value will be displayed in bold and highlighted in red to illustrate that it falls outside of the expected range, which was predefined for this field. If a mistake is made, REDCap will display an alert for some fields. This is to safeguard that data is entered in a consistent format. Some fields, like the body mass index, are calculated fields. These fields look like text boxes, but they have a red font and they cannot be changed. These fields complete automatically when you've entered the other data used in the predefined equation. As you enter data, additional fields might appear. This feature is called branching logic or skip logic. It hides or reveals questions based on how other questions are answered. Simply follow the built-in prompts and read the instrument instructions to complete the form. As you can see, data entry is pretty straightforward. If a patient leaves a field blank, this field may be left open in REDCap as well. If a patient indicates a range instead of a number, please fill in the average. If a patient indicates 2 answers instead of 1, choose the most conservative answer possibility. For example, if a patient puts a cross between not at all and several days on the first question of the questionnaire on math thoughts and feelings, you better go for not at all, because several days will impact the total score towards depression. On this slide, you can find an overview of the variables and instructions on how to handle multiple answers for the different variables. If you have any questions about this, you may always contact the coordinating center. Some of the fields are text fields. If your patients have not completed the set of questionnaires in English, make sure that you translate these words to English. It will make data analysis much easier afterwards. Some text fields have been adapted to facilitate data entry. For example, you will see that the last question of the multi-dimension scale on social support contains answer possibilities instead of only text. This is also the case in the data entry form of part 2 of the study, when entering data on sports or activities. If the patient wrote down additional information, or if you want to give additional information about the patient, please use the balloons next to the questions. At the bottom of every data collection instrument, you will find the form status question. The answers in this drop-down field define which color this instrument button will be on the record status dashboard. You can mark a record as complete, even if some questions have not been answered. Marking it as complete does not mean that you cannot return or modify the data. You can almost always edit data in REDCap. You can always leave it as a default incomplete and change it later. There is no autosave in REDCap, so save early and save often. There are several save options at the bottom of the instrument and in the floating menu. Each option has slightly different functionality, so select whichever one applies for your particular situation. Notice that I am now in the third data collection instrument, but the same record is open. I can now enter more data about this record. Notice that when a record is open, the record ID and colored form status buttons appear in the data collection section. Clicking the record ID takes you back to the record homepage. The colored buttons can be used to navigate directly to other instruments. The record name or number is always displayed at the top of the instrument. As you will see, REDCap assigns a sequential number to each new record. When one of the instruments is completed, this number can be changed. The number should be changed to the study ID number of the patient. The study ID number consists of the 3-digit center identification code and the 3-digit local patient identification number. As you can see here, we've entered data from patients in Leuven. The center identification code of Leuven is 302. The center identification code of your center can be found right under the study ID number or in the progress checklist or on the Open Science Framework. The number can be changed when you click on Record ID, choose Action for Record, Rename Record. It is crucial to read through all prompts and alerts and understand them fully before proceeding. If you are not sure what to do, choose to leave the fields and the data open and contact the coordinating center for guidance. If you want to continue data entry by creating a new record, I must go back to the Edit Record page and repeat the process. Each record is automatically assigned to your center, which is called the Data Access Group in REDCap. You will only have access to the records of your center. If you have questions, please contact the coordinating center. Good luck with the data entry.